Good afternoon, class 12 children. Today we will continue with the 12th part of the video of the 8th chapter of Evidences and Theories of Evolution. In the last video, we had studied about the drawbacks of Darwinism. We studied about neo-Darwinism. Then we studied about Darwinism and the neo-Darwinian concept of natural selection. We also looked at mutation, theory of de Vries and its important features we looked at. We also looked at the theory of evolution and the factors of theory of evolution given by Stebbins. So we looked at all this, and today let us begin with the study of causes of variations. Variation is a process whereby closely related organisms come to differ among themselves. We have seen that offsprings of same parents or even twins are not exactly alike. None of the offsprings and parents are true copies of each other. Thus, variation is the first fundamental factor for evolution. But only heritable variations take part in evolution of new species. Only those variations that are passed on from the parent to the offspring, they take part in evolution of new species. Causes of variations are classified into two categories. If we see the environmental conditions under which these two categories come, we see that different set of environmental conditions cause variations between the members of the same species inhabiting different areas. So the two categories of variations that can be enumerated are non-heritable and somatogenic variations. Let us look at non-heritable variations. The non-heritable variations are concerned only with a particular individual, and they do not bring a variation in the race as a whole, in the whole of the race of that organism. In somatogenic variations, these are affecting only the body or the soma of the organisms, not the sex cells, which include all the characteristics acquired by organisms during their lifetime. We see that there is a certain change in gene pattern. The gene pattern changes. The express characteristics of an individual depends upon the gene combination it has inherited from its parents. The process of sexual reproduction is such that all offsprings inherit different genotypes or gene combinations from their parents. The random distribution of homologous genes in meiosis, crossing over, dual parentage, that means two parents are involved, and random union of gametes in fertilization are some important causes of variations during sexual reproduction. Let us understand this again. Random distribution of homologous genes in meiosis, in the cell division of meiosis, crossing over, dual parentage, that means two parents involved, male and female, and random union of gametes in fertilization are some important causes of variations or variabilities during sexual reproduction. Now let us renew our understanding of mutation. Mutation is an important factor responsible for variability of genes. What is the definition of mutation? Mutation can be defined as a sudden hereditary change in the genetic makeup of an organism, other than that which may be caused by the simple recombination of genes. Now, under this mutation, we see three types of mutations. Let us quickly understand them. Gene or point mutation. As ma'am had told you about this kind of mutation when she was teaching about mutation chapters, the nucleotide sequence of a DNA molecule usually changes at a single place involving a single gene. What we see, gene or point mutation takes place when the nucleotide sequence of a DNA molecule usually changes at a single place involving a single gene. Now, the second kind of mutation is called chromosomal mutation or aberration. When there is an increase in the number of chromosomes and change in their morphology during cell division is called chromosomal mutation. So you had studied about the aberrations in the chapter of mutation also, children. So this is chromosomal mutation or aberration. Then the third kind of mutation that we see here is genometric mutation, or a mutation which involves increase in the dose of whole genome. What is the whole genome? All the genes of an organism put together is their genome. So genometric mutation involves increase in the dosage or the amount of the whole genome. Then let us look at the sources of variations. There are different sources of variations. There are 6 of them enumerated here, like mutations is a source of variation, recombinations are a source of variation, migration, then genetic drift, gene flow, and selection. So these 6 are the sources of variation. Let us understand one by one. We won't be able to cover all of them because some of them need some more detailed explanation. So let us first look at the first one, which is a source of variation, which is mutations. Mutations is a broad term. Mutation is a broad term, and the sense includes all those heritable changes which alter the phenotype of an individual. That means how the individual finally looks, that is changed. So mutation is a broad sense, includes all those heritable changes which alter the phenotype of an individual. Then we also see that mutations introduce new genetic information into a population by modifying genes that are already present. Then we see in mutation, although sexual reproduction does not generate new genetic information like mutation, but sexual reproduction allows for the recombination of genes into mixtures that did not occur previously. So we see that sexual reproduction causes recombinations, and recombination of genes causes variation. Now, let us look at the fourth type. Mostly mutations are harmful and very rarely will one occur that is valuable to the organisms. We can take an example here. In the past, mutations occurred in DNA of certain insects. Now, these mutations, when they occurred in certain DNA of insects, that made some individuals tolerant to the insecticide DDT. Even though the chemical yet to be invented, finally more DDT tolerant individuals were left to reproduce the species, and therefore the DDT tolerant alleles became much more common in these population. So we see that those individuals who could not tolerate the DDT virulence, they died. But those individuals who had a specific allele that was DDT tolerant, that individual got an opportunity to reproduce its species, and therefore the DDT tolerant alleles became much more common in the populations of certain insects, for example mosquitoes. Now what are the implications or the consequences of mutation? We see the effects of chromosome and gene mutations are varied. The effects of chromosome and gene mutations are varied. In many cases, mutations are lethal and prevent development of the organism. We see one of the implications of mutations is that in many cases mutations are lethal and prevent development of the organism. Then in some of chromosome mutation may bring certain gene sequences which may produce beneficial characteristics. So some of the chromosome mutations may bring certain gene sequences which may produce beneficial or helpful characteristics for an individual. Then the third thing which is the effect of mutation is gene mutation may lead to several alleles occupying a specific locus or a specific point, which increases both the heterozygosity and size of gene pool of the population and leads to the increase of variation within the population. Then we see another aspect of the effect of mutation is certain gene mutations, they increase discontinuous variations. We studied about this in a couple of videos back about the discontinuous variations which appear at one place and then they are not continuous in certain areas and then again it appears in another place. This was the example of discontinuous variation. So the mutation effects are certain gene mutations increase discontinuous variations, and this has a most profound or deep effect on changes in the population. Now let us also see some common misconceptions about the theory of evolution. There are certain misconceptions about the theory of evolution. Evolution happened only in the past. Some people think evolution is not occurring today, but it used to occur in the past. So this is one of the misconceptions about the evolution theory. Now the second misconception we see is that evolution has certain goal that it results in organisms that fit the environment. And evolution has certain goal that it results in organisms that fit the environment. This is not true. Then the third misconception is that changes in the environment cause mutations that are needed to survive under the new environmental conditions. What does this misconception or misunderstanding say? That the changes in the environment cause mutations that are needed to survive under new environmental conditions. So this is untrue about the theory of evolution. Fourth part that is a misconception about evolution is that only individual organisms evolve. Only individual organisms evolve. Whereas we can see that even the races are changed, even sometimes the populations they change, and they take up a change in the gene frequencies. So we see that this is also untrue. Then today's species can frequently be shown to be derived from other present day species. Now this is not true every time. Today's species can frequently be shown to be derived from other present day species. So this is also a misconception of evolution. The sixth one, the last one, says that genes are valuable to an organism's survival, and these genes become dominant. It is not necessary that genes that are valuable to an organism's survival become dominant, because experience and experiments have shown that even those genes which are not valuable, even they become dominant in species or in individuals. So all these six are the common misconceptions about the history of evolution. Now we will end this video here, children, and we will start from the second source of variation, recombinations, in the coming video. So wish you all the best and study well. Thank you.